Testing, testing.
It's just not very menacing. I tried to ask slaves last week. The texture is I couldn't have been. Oh, I was gonna say. No, that's actually the instruction that I got. Well, not that menacing. Not that menacing. With pocket bars.
Test. Hey, here we go. Might be a little loud. It is? All right. Just a second. It's a one-man crew here.
Yes. Very smart.
Test. Is that any better, or is still way too loud? All right. All right, well, welcome everybody. I'm sorry this is quite loud, but that's the way it goes. I don't know how to operate that thing back there. Looks recognizable, but not working. So anyway, well, welcome everybody to this public hearing on a text amendment to repeal zoning in our community throughout Banks Township. Just kind of want to again say thanks for coming out and giving your opinions and letting us know where you're at. It's a big decision. It's certainly been a lot on my mind, and I know on the other 4 board members' minds for the past 6 months. So thanks a lot for all of your input. We got a lot of letters. I'll read who sent those in a little bit. But I just want to say thank you to the school for letting us use this gym. We didn't know how many people would be here, so hopefully this is working out pretty good. But thank you very much to them for letting us use this. Congratulations to the boys basketball team who won their districts last week. Unfortunately, they fell in the regionals this week, but congratulations to them. And the girls are in the district final tomorrow night if you're looking for some entertainment. So congratulations to them. Yeah. And finally, it was a joke, but they took it seriously, and the concession stand's open with popcorn and stuff, so we might need it before this thing's over with. So with that, I'm going to call this meeting to order. We'll start out with the Pledge of Allegiance, flag's right there, and then I'll have an invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Lord, we thank you for bringing all these people to this meeting tonight safe. Lord, we thank you for everyone's interest in this community and its longevity and where we go from here and how to balance our rights with planning and what we want to see happen all at the same time. Lord, we ask for your wisdom as we discuss this and hear from our fellow community members. And Lord, we just ask for peace here tonight and calm hearts, calm minds. Thank you all for that you do for us. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, so I know you guys saw an agenda there. I have a few more left on the table. What we're going to do tonight, to start with, is we're going to approve the agenda real quick, and then we'll have a regular public comment period. So if you want to talk about something other than zoning, that would be the time to do so. Then there will be one at the end too. So you'll have an opportunity, three times to talk tonight. So again, the first part's just kind of anything else in the community you want to talk about. You can talk about anything you want. You can talk about how the Spartans are doing later tonight, whatever. But if you got zoning specific comments, I'd ask you to wait for those and then do that during the public hearing, so that it's all recorded together in the minutes. And hopefully that helps explain all that. And yeah, with that, I'll sit down for a second.
Could we have introductions of who you are, please?
Certainly, yes. We'll do that real quick. You actually want to say your names, or you want me to say who you are?
I'm Richard Frisky, one of the two trustees.
Marv Rubin, trustee.
Katie Postmas, treasurer. Julie Tellis, clerk.
I'm Alex Bushman, the supervisor, and Catherine Kaufman is our attorney down here to keep us on the straight and narrow. So. Hold on a second. Unless you guys can all hear us like this. I doubt it. Okay. I got a pretty good voice, but, you know. Yeah, it'll be a long night. All right, then we have our agenda here in front of us. Any amendments? If not, we have a motion to approve the agenda. Julie makes the motion. Richard supports. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed the same? Okay, the motion carries. All right, then as I mentioned, this is an opportunity now for public comment about, I guess you can say the same thing twice, but preferably non-zoning things first. Paul, come on down.
Thank you. Good evening. Paul Kanowitz, Banks Township. I'm not going to talk about zoning or property rights or any of that, just more procedural things. Okay, so back in September, we circulated a petition around the township when we launched the Freedom from Zoning in Banks Township movement. It was a hardline petition with the idea on paper asking neighbors if they believed we should ask the board to remove zoning altogether. The response was tremendous. Many residents signed it because they believed it was time for a change. Recently, some folks on social media claimed that our petition was not legal. I understand what they meant, but in the context of the hit piece that it was made in, it sounded like something improper or illegal was done. I want to be clear that there's nothing illegal about a grassroots petition. Asking your neighbors to support an idea is perfectly lawful. Rather than argue about it, I use this as motivation to relieve these folks from trying to panhandle on Facebook and stress about collecting petitions. We took the opportunity recently and formed a political action committee called Committee for a Citizen Vote on Banks Township Zoning. We worked with our attorney and prepared an official legal petition which clearly refers to the ordinance that is being considered tonight. We collected the required signatures from township voters based on the statute. What this means is simple. No matter what happens with tonight's vote, the work to place zoning on the ballot has already been completed by our team, so the voters of this township will have their say. Yesterday, I turned in about 119 signatures to the clerk. There's still more trickling in. Yes. And the clerk commented that these were very nice, but might not work as the referendum petition since they were signed before the board votes. I'll share with you a legal opinion that I have, and if you have a different interpretation of the statute, then we can challenge it later. The statute doesn't say that the signatures have to be gathered after the ordinance is enacted. The petition is drafted clearly refers to the ordinance that is being considered, and the people who signed it have enough information to understand what they are signing. The work is done. The people want to vote. Thank you.
Jairus Rubing. I serve as the County Commissioner for Banks, Central Lake, and Torch Lake Township. And I just thought that I would take this opportunity, since a lot of my constituents are here tonight, to let the public know that Antrim County, we had a meeting this morning, and we had a lot of in-depth discussions about the new jail and the new public safety center. And Plant Moran Real Point was there. It's a $27 million project. And we had some pretty in-depth discussion about mental health and flex cells in the middle of our jail. Our prosecutor also submitted a request to the commissioners, which we approved today, that would take some common offenses like driving without a license and minor drug, maybe operating while intoxicated, those types of things, and offer the defendant the opportunity to take a class instead of to just sit in jail, and to demonstrate that they understand the class and that they would hopefully not need to take up jail time for minor criminal offenses. So a lot of talk from our advisors and the public about how do we help folks not sit in jail, because 95% of them are going to be back in our community in a short time, and how can we help them to recover from addiction, and how can we help them to become contributing members of our community. So those discussions will be ongoing, but when we're looking at building a jail that's hopefully going to last between 60 and 70 years, we want to be able to have the space in there to do counseling, to offer peer counseling and professional counseling. North Country Community Mental Health also has counselors that they offer to the 6 counties, and I serve as the commissioner from Antrim County on that board. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to let the public all know here that we are having some pretty substantive discussions about how we can help folks in our community and how we can make our new public safety center to be as helpful as possible to those who utilize it, both law enforcement and those folks that are there for whatever reason.
Thank you, Jared.
Cheers.
How's it going, everyone? Dr. Mitch Disson here. I'm director of the New People Foundation. We have a few new initiatives in this area. Just want to make everybody aware of it. First is a pickup sports group. So if anybody wants to come out and play sports, hopefully we can play in here someday, but the level and quality of basketball will not be as great as the high school team, I can promise you that. Second initiative is just a mutual aid group for any able-bodied person to help out. Let's say there's an elderly couple that just needs to, help with some mulching on their lawn or something. Just trying to help build stronger community relations here. So if anybody wants to help out with any of these projects, feel free to reach out to me afterwards. So thank you.
Brad Waterman, Banks Township. That is loud. Just want you to be aware, I never got a petition, never seen a petition. I've come to quite a few of these meetings, just mentioning there might be some people missed out on that. And as far as the subject someday, I would like to hear more about housing for maybe your youth that turns 17, 18, 19. Instead of growing up and leaving town, can there be some discussions about housing? That's something important to me. So, and then as far as down the road, being prepared for data centers. That's getting a lot of news. So, thank you.
Anybody else?
it's okay with the rest of the board, I'm gonna move the new business item up to the top real quick. We were made aware of the resignation of our maintenance and hall rental coordinator personnel last week. And I just want to thank them very much for their devoted attention to our hall over the past 20 years. I don't know how long they've been doing it. A long time. So thank you very much to Jan and Jerry Rasmussen. With that, I would make a motion to accept their resignation letter. Richard supports. Any further discussion?
Just thank you.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
Thank you, Jan. Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Jan, and thank you, Jerry, for all you've done for this community.
all right, then with that, those in agreement, I can't even think of it, I can't think of it right now, sorry. Those in support, say aye. In favor, thank you, that's the word I'm looking for. Those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed the same. Motion carries. Thank you again for all your hard work. I know you guys put a ton of time into that town hall and it shows, so thank you so much. All right. All right, before we start the public hearing, I guess we'll make a motion to go into the public hearing at this time, I guess. So, anybody have a motion? Marv moves. Katie supports. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed the same. Motion carries. All right, we're starting our public hearing now. Okay, so we've gotten a lot of letters. But before I get into that real quick, I want to say something real quick. This has been a big issue here for 6 months. There's a lot of people who are really worked up, and understandably so, on both sides. The zoning ordinance, I think, has gotten out of control a little bit. I think that there's been some things that have been added to that zoning ordinance that have just kind of taken on a life of their own and didn't get a lot of pushback, didn't get a lot of participation in our planning commission hearings. And so I can see where there are a lot of people who are upset about that and want to see change. And I can tell you, we hear you loud and clear. There's no doubt about that. But with that, and likewise, there's a lot of people wanting to see us stick around, and they have a lot of valid opinions as well. And like I said, I've read a ton of letters over the past 6 months, and got a pretty good feel for where people are at with this thing. But I do want to say, so one of the letters was pretty disparaging to these two guys here on my left, and there's been other ones that are disparaging towards Katie and Julie, and there's stuff floating around on the internet about me. I'm sure I just quit looking at Facebook just because of that. And I just want to say that nobody here is anybody's savior. Okay, nothing's gonna end tonight. No matter what happens with the vote. And I just want to say that these two guys have been grossly demeaned for just having a difference of opinion. They look at the world differently than I do in some regards, and in other regards, we're in lockstep. And I would urge everyone to have a better understanding of everybody at this board before you go ripping on them. We are all human. We're all worthy of dignity and respect. Everyone on this board works very hard to do the best that they can by everybody in this community. And I would just ask for that respect that I think we've earned. There's some who would say we don't, but so be it. So just think about that before you start ripping on people who are doing this job. We're all just citizens in this community with you. We're not some faceless bureaucrat in Washington, D.C. or even Lansing. We live, you all have my address, okay? You all know where I live and where everybody else is at here. And so I just want to say, Marv, you don't change your stripes, man. You do not. You are what you are. You, for 20 plus years, you wanted to get rid of zoning. That's just who you are. That mindset, that worldview that you have is far older than him owning a piece of ground that's got some gravel under it. So don't think that he's just changing his mind because now he owns some property that he might make some money on, okay? Richard, you saw this letter, I'm sure. I find you to be an incredibly outstanding person that can be a role model for people. You got a great wife, great kids, great product, great business. I mean, there's nothing to disparage that I'm aware of. So I really do look up to you. And you know, Julie, you get beat up a lot. You really do. I will tell you guys, I'm on the phone with her all the time. All the time. She's trying to find out what the right thing is to do for different things in our community. She's trying to do things the right way. She's taking tons of training to take on a massive job. It's a huge scope of work. And she's done a really good job of picking that up in what, 14, 15 months. So I commend you for that. And, you know, like I said, it's all about respect. And Katie, you get dragged through the mud too. I know, you're tough. You are, everybody up here has relatively thick skin, but it does wear on you over time. To know that there are people that are just down the street from you who hate your guts because you think a different way on an issue. And that goes both directions. So obviously we have differences of opinions. We've talked about it at length. And I just that's just what I wanted to say today before. Why have everybody here? Everybody's watching online, whatever. Let's just be respectful. We are all human beings worthy of each other's dignity, worthy of dignity and respect. So,
I would like to thank Alex for an excellent job running the meetings. And as you've just seen, he respects people and he respects all of you. And I know that because he gets all these letters and he reads every one and he takes every one your and our opinions into account. I really believe and hope, at the bottom of my heart, that after this process, we can unify as a township. We need unity. Julie did an excellent job talking about that last time. And I believe that after a decision is made of this magnitude, there can be healing. And after division, we can come together. I really believe also that in the short term, not very long term, I don't know the exact timing, we will all need each other. We have a federal government that's out of control. We have a government that has a deficit that is unimaginable. And when that deficit and their actions come home, it will affect every one of us, and we will need to work together as a community to know our neighbors, to help our neighbors, and to be friends. And that's where we need to go.
Thanks, Marv. Anybody else want to say anything? If not, I will read through the letters that we received, just to put them into the record here. As far as I know, this is everybody up until like 5:45. So we have received letters from David Donna Harris, Gregory Zimmerman, Mary Froling, Bruce Lydell, Hannah and Tanner Yerk, Jack and Ardith Toringa, Becky Richards, David and Deborah Trumbull, Dave and Barb Bersuter, Heidi Hornaday, Donald Miles, Dwayne Abramowski, Phil and Laura Edwards, Julie Waterman, Catherine Drayton, Pat Chapman, Thomas Mann, Ray Beer, Tyler and Anna Beer, Rich and Casey Frisky, John and Evelyn Frisky, Robert and Maureen Lagerstorm, Andy Farbman, Leslie Lee, Catherine Cowell, Leela Vansel, Dennis and Diane Jensen, Sarah Rosso, Linda Spevacek, Lean Bigos, Arlene Westhoven, Lee Georges, Paula Leach, Torch Lake Protection Alliance, Rob Keller, Jenny Cornea, Friends of Clam Lake, Barbara Carton, Bill Vandercook, Judy Passon, Ann Schwant, the Watershed, Traverse City, Tip of the Mitt Watershed Council, Teresa Sherman, and Carla Camber. All right, now that that's in there, we're gonna start just receiving public comment. It'll be limited to 3 minutes. Let's have you guys come down as you see fit. When the line's a little low or whatever, if you can kind of just create a line so we're not waiting for people to go up and down the steps all night long, that'd be great. I'm sure none of us want to be here till midnight, so, but if we are, great, whatever. So, come on down, we'll start taking the public comment.
Somebody has to be first. So first of all, I want to thank all of you as board members for doing the job you do. It's kind of a thankless job, and I appreciate the recognition that you are doing what you do. Despite differences of opinion, we're all community members. So here we go. Tonight I'm wearing blue because it's symbolic of protecting our waters. It was kind of a symbol that was circulated online. But the issues that we're talking about tonight are way more than just protecting our waters. For instance, what if somebody like Nestle came in and bought up a couple farms and wanted to collect all of our water and sell it back to us in our little bottles? That would be disastrous to our way of life. We have ordinances in the zoning that are meant to protect us from commercial exploitation, as well as our friends and neighbors. We all have the ability to aggravate our neighbors. So we have ordinances that protect us from each other. We have building ordinances, and that's what the ordinances do, is help us build a community. We have a plan, the master plan, that takes us forward. And zoning is the tool that we use to accomplish these things. We have building ordinances, and so far we have ordinances against adult activities like a bookstore or a theater. We have ordinances about billboards and signs. I love living here. I don't see billboards everywhere. We don't have any hazardous material storage. We regulate junkyards. We have setbacks. One issue that's near and dear to everyone is short-term rentals. We have lighting ordinances. We live in a lovely dark area with dark skies, and we don't want to be polluted by one another's bright lights. We have noise ordinances. God help us if somebody wanted to sponsor truck pulls on their property. That would be obnoxious. We have a way to work around the restrictive nature of some of the ordinances with variances. There's a procedure in place to alleviate some of the stress. So I ask you tonight to please don't abdicate your responsibilities to manage the zoning ordinance that we have. To stop this now, and please reverse course tonight. Again, I thank you.
Vicki Kemp, I live in Banks Township. So mine are more questionable things about how the board is handled, because I'm not real familiar with your policies and procedures. So the number one is, if a person, I believe Mark, if I'm not mistaken, made a motion several months ago to stop zoning. Happened originally, then it was denied, and then he brought it up again. And my understanding was it was not on the agenda, and it was pushed through, and this is what brought us to today. So I have concerns about that. So secondly, I've been on lots of different boards and lots of different associations, members, and I'm used to the policy that if a member is going to benefit from a motion, they refrain from voting. And I believe that has not happened. So I wondered why that hasn't happened, and then do you have a policy in that effect? And if not, why not? So because I believe, all this has to do with benefit. Now, my understanding is I'm newer to the community. I've only been here 8 years. I live off of 31. I can go within 10 miles to the west, or excuse me, to the south, to the north, and to the east, and there's a gravel pit already in place. So why do we need another gravel pit? He talked previously, oh, well, there's going to be a shortage. I've never lived anywhere in the U.S. with so many gravel pits within my neighborhood. So I'm concerned about that too, is the big push for the huge gravel pit, when I don't see there's going to be a shortage. So that's just beside the point. My other issue is, I want you to remember that you were voted in by the members of the community. And your position should be what is in the best interest of the community and not to benefit you personally. And a second thought is, can the community, because they're voted in it from the community members, can the community members come up with a petition to have that board member removed before their term is up? So those are my questions about your, because I, again, belong to an association, and that is one of our policies, is that if members are not happy with what's happening on the board, we as members have a right to ask for that position to be removed, or them to be released from their position. So that's something I thought might be food for thought. Thank you.
Good evening. Tonight you'll hear the same things you've heard many times related to zoning. I'd like you to remember, when you're listening to the voices from Torchlight Alliance and the voices from Elk Rapids and Traverse City and other townships besides Banks, those voices are not the voices of the registered voters of Banks Township. They are not the voices of the citizens who voted you into office. The registered voters are those that you should be listening to. That's why this issue should go to the ballot for voting. They'll try and tell you it's all about trustee Marv Ribbing and a gravel pit. It is not. It is about personal property rights. The property that you own and pay taxes on. It's about doing with your own property as you see fit. As long as you are not polluting anyone else, it should not be anyone else's business what you do with your own property. When they tell you the water will be polluted without zoning, remind them that water in Michigan is primarily protected by the Michigan Department of Environment and Great Lakes Energy. At the state level and in partnership with the federal agencies like U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and many other agencies, such as the Michigan Department of Agricultural and Rural Development and the Michigan Water Stewardship Program. None of these agencies are tied to local zoning. When they tell you that there'll be a tar paper shack built next to them if there's no zoning, remind them that zoning tells you where you can build your house and how many homes you can have on one parcel of property. It's the building department with a licensed contractors that tells you how to build your home, and that is what will protect you from having a tar paper shack built next to you. When they tell you without zoning, marijuana businesses will open, remind them that under the Michigan Regulation and Taxation of Marijuana Act of 2018, Banks Township has already determined no marijuana business can be opened in the township. and that's not tied to zoning. When they tell you without zoning, junk will pile up, remind them Michigan gives all township police powers to develop ordinances to deal with blight and nuisance. And this too is not tied to zoning. When a young man with his PhD in evolutionary biology tells you hundreds of diseases that he believes come from gravel pit, I'd like to remind you that Craig Stanley, who grew up in the gravel pit, has expressed to you before that he's in his 60s, not on any medication, and is in perfect health. I'd also like to remind you that we've had gravel pits in Banks Township for years, and I don't see an epidemic of health problems or deaths related to them.
Hey, Patty, that's 3 minutes.
What? My 3 minutes is over? Okay.
Good evening. Thank you for hosting this meeting. My name is Martha. Okay. My name is Martha Kern-Beaupre. My husband and I own a home in Banks Township, and we also have a home in Superior Township, Washtenaw County. I personally have held township and county elected office for 40 years, 40 plus years now. So I've sat in your shoes. I sat in your seats, and I faced people at microphones for quite a while. I am encouraging you to retain your zoning ordinance. It may well need updates. It may well need clarifications. That's good local government. You may be faced with more land usage questions that ordinance will help you negotiate. Data centers are coming up all over the state of Michigan, as well as other parts of our country, and we need good written legal policies in place to manage those. So I recognize your zoning ordinance may well need improvements. It may need clarifications. That's fine. Go ahead, proceed with that, analyze them, but please don't throw it out, because you will then be left defenseless. And what these ordinances do is protect property owners from one another. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Stuart M. Smith. I'm Banks Township is where our summer family home is, and I'm against the throwing out the zoning ordinances. Like Martha said, if you need to revise them, I would do that, but I would not throw out the zoning ordinances. Thank you.
Judy Curran, Banks Township. I want to mention that at the last meeting, the Planning Commission meeting, a lot of people seemed to be confused as to what it was that you were trying to demolish. They seemed to think it was the building permit process and not zoning. A lot of people made comments to that effect. And I wonder if that's where all the idea that we will gain so much freedom from having our zoning taken away. Obviously, building permits come from Lansing, the rules that regulate that, and that's not what you're doing. So maybe you would like to clarify that for everyone so that they know what they're getting. As you know, there are real estate developers who are swarming our area looking for some place to put a data center. They've been in Kalkaska, they've been in Hayes Township. Some of our neighboring townships have put moratoriums on building data centers in their townships. That makes us even more attractive. So if you get rid of zoning, we will be wall-to-wall data centers or whatever other things people can come up with. And that's not just people here who will have enhanced freedom, But that's people coming from all over the United States knowing that there's a little bit of Michigan shoreline where there's no zoning. I think that you might follow the example of some of our neighboring townships and think about this a little more deeply. If you get rid of zoning, you will destroy the rural character of our community. And I don't believe that anyone has given anyone on this board a mandate to do that. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Patrick McGuire. I attended the November 18th Planning Commission meeting where we had a public hearing to discuss the motion by the Township Board to repeal zoning. At that meeting, I listened to 18 people speak in favor of repealing zoning. 2 of those were non-residents. I heard 31 people speak in favor of keeping zoning. 7 of those were non-residents. However you want to decide or count resident or non-resident, the result is 1/3 were in favor of repealing, 2/3 were in favor of keeping at that meeting. It would be my recommendation that this board keeps zoning for Banks Township. One thing I heard on both sides of this topic is that the current ordinance needs to be reworked. And I think that this ordinance is currently too restrictive. So let's do that. Let's amend this ordinance. Let's give the people the freedom to do what they want on their private property. And let's protect our neighbors while we do it. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, my name is Sue Winter and I'm a full-time resident of Banks Township since 1994. My husband and I have owned property here since 1993. We oppose the amendment to repeal the Banks Township ordinance, and we would agree that it does need to be looked at and revision. All policies need revision and need to be dynamic in properties. As residents, we truly appreciate and I'm grateful for the natural resources in this community, including the overall peaceful environment. The zoning ordinance provides a structure for the wise development and safeguarding of these resources and character of this community. We recognize that there are currently state and federal laws that help protect the environment. However, these can be repealed and or may not be sufficient to meet the local needs of our community. We are also gravely concerned about advancements in technology, what I call disruptors, that even though this board is well seasoned and this community is well seasoned, we are not even aware of. I can imagine there were a lot of communities that were struggling to learn about data centers when it was first proposed. Technology is moving at a rapid speed and we just don't know what's coming around next. The zoning, we're gravely concerned and that we may be unaware today that what will significantly impact this township without a zoning ordinance to help guide elected officials in determination of appropriate use of our land in our community. As stewards of this land, we believe repealing the Banks Township zoning ordinance will negatively impact on our ability to make wise and appropriate decisions regarding land use and future development. We appreciate the opportunity to provide public comment and the board work on this issue. Thank you.
Everybody's turning in their homework. I'm not sure I'm prepared. Just want to say, Doug Sini, Banks Township, we will get through this. We'll hopefully still be friends. We'll definitely still be neighbors. So let's work together. There are problems with the zoning. It has some overreach. It needs some revision. My suggestion would be form a committee of people from both sides of the aisle and work on it. That's how things get solved, by talking amongst ourselves. We have differing opinions, that's fine, let's work through it. If I have a broken toe, it doesn't mean I'm going to amputate the foot. We should keep the zoning and work on it. One final thought, with no zoning, the highest bidder will be the driving force. Corporations or people, individuals with more money than the entire net worth of Banks Township residents can come in and do as they see fit. Whatever your hot button may be, you may not like it. It could be a data center, a wind farm, solar farm, sewage treatment plant. It's going to go to the highest bidder if we don't have some zoning that sets some parameters to control our beautiful environment. Thanks.
Ani Bushu, hi, hello, Tara John Disnikov, Madhuyashik, Mayandishnikov. My government name is Tara John. I'm also known as the woman that speaks the language of the wind. Makwandoram Kachiwi Kudong and Dojaba. I'm a registered citizen and voting member in Banks Township. I am largely against zoning ordinances and codes, but this actually is one of the ways that policy and procedure, as intended, moves on behalf of the community that it is protecting. And this, although might be outdated and overreaching, definitely needs to be reworked and still withheld. Zoning is how you are held accountable to your neighbors, and the respect that you should have for your predecessors that put work and hours into writing that zoning code should be relevant as well. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sue Swain. I'm a resident of Banks Township, full-time. Boy, everybody has spoken my words and my feelings. Although I really believe that we should be able to do what we want on our property, on our land, providing it does not harm others. We've seen recent actions of disrespect. If we all could respect one another, we wouldn't need zoning. We do need zoning. Mr. Rubin, you're a poster child that says that we need zoning. The watershed is not just affecting the neighbors that are around the gravel mine, it's affecting everyone downstream. We need that to live. So to say that we need to get rid of zoning is to say that we are making ourselves vulnerable to those who have the most money, or those who have the most sway, or those who have their own interests on top of their neighbors' interests. I'm a little nervous. I appreciate the work that's gone into the zoning already. I know people have spent a lot of time and done a lot of good work. I would also like to see a committee or some sort of a more democratic process where we citizens are allowed to impact what goes into the zoning. And I don't think it needs to be that complicated. I think we can do that. Technology that we have, more minds are better than fewer minds. So. Sorry. I was just suggesting some sort of. What?
I guess they're interested in what you have to say.
Really nervous. Yeah, I think that if there was a process by which people could participate in pulling back the zoning so that it's not what we're doing personally that doesn't have an effect on others, but yeah, I would like to see more democratic participation in looking at and reviewing and revisiting the zoning. I'm for the zoning. I don't feel that it has to infringe on my right to do what I want where I live. So thank you all.
Just notice so that if you're shorter, you can hear. My name is Shirley Jones. I live on the Flat Road in Banks Township, And I've been here in front of this committee for several years talking about Fox Mission, and I'm going to talk about it again tonight. Fox Mission, and some of my neighbors are here who have been affected by the landowner of Fox Mission, where they clear cut, didn't put up erosion screens, and then in the winter, in the springtime, when snow melt and the spring rains happened, all that debris washed down into the creek, which is a designated trout stream, and filled it in about 6 inches. Nothing was done by this committee or the state of Michigan or then the Department of Environmental Quality, which is now called EEL. They told me I had to get permits to dredge the creek if I wanted to fix the designated trout stream. Since then, I was also on vacation when that happened. And when I came home from vacation, the landowner up there had put a wooden bridge across the designated trout stream, Goyer Creek. Put logs across the creek on my land without my permission because they had put logs down across the wetland for the logging trucks to take the logs out, and when that failed, they thought it was okay to come onto my land and put a bridge across my land without permission. And this was with zoning in place, and they did that. I received no compensation for any of the work and the destruction of my land. Our neighbors and myself deal with flooding every year because the creek was filled in about 6 inches. I used to be able to stand in the creek and it'd be about to my knee, and now I stand in it and it's like below my calf. That's how much silt and sand filled in this designated trout stream. Anybody who drives on the flat road knows that when you get a heavy rain, the road floods. And it's flowing water. And the county put cones on it to caution people. In fact, they even leave the cones there because it happens so often. Last year we were down there looking at the flooding to see how deep it was, and we witnessed a vehicle almost flipping over because as it hit that flowing water, the driver lost control of their vehicle. And that's all because somebody didn't make the people in Fox Mission do the right thing. And we just compared notes again. Yeah, your backyard floods? Oh, yeah, mine does too. It's horrible. Irreparable damage was done. So as a consequence, I also support zoning. Just 30 seconds. I think the best thing to do is to get a citizens committee and repeal the zoning. Now, I mean, repeal it, refine, rework it. Because I support affordable housing also. It can't happen right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Where am I supposed to see it? You're okay?
You can come a little closer if you want, but yeah.
Hi, I'm Coral, and I live and own property and vote in Meigs Township. I've never been to one of these meetings before, not because, what was it that was said that I didn't care or I wanted to wait until there was a problem, but I get very uncomfortable around people. So what I do is I read it, the notes online, and if it sounds especially salacious, I go on YouTube to see exactly what was said. So I'm up to snuff on everything that's happened in the last 6 months. And I appreciate the fact that you want everything to be calm and polite. But I've not discussed this issue with anybody, ever. This is my own thoughts as a taxpayer and as a voter. And because I don't know a lot of people in Ellsworth, and I don't talk about politics to anybody, I take voting very seriously. So I read everything that anybody sends me about why they want to be in position. And then I go online and I read about them. You know, were they really, already a member? Did they do this? Did they do this? And I've had some concerns. And again, I'm not saying anybody's not a wonderful person. I'm not being malicious. I'm not being mean. But as a voter, I've been concerned because Mr. Rubin has been trying to put through this.
Speak into the mic if you can.
This,
you can bend it.
This, I don't like touching things.
Fair enough.
This gravel since 2017. And so, to be honest, I didn't vote for you because I thought the only reason why you wanted to be here was to get your gravel mine in. So that was my concern. And then this whole thing came up about the zoning. And then I thought it was just another way for you to get your gravel mine. And maybe that's all in my head, but I wanted to be honest directly to you in a non-rude, non-confrontational way, how I was feeling as a taxpayer. And as far as totally getting rid of the zoning, has anybody ever heard the expression, throwing the baby out with the bathwater? We currently have a system that when somebody wants to do something, I'm not saying it's not a perfect system, like what everybody else said about this. As a synopsis, you know, it could be better. 3 minutes, and I want you to remember that.
Good evening. My name is Steve Cobb. I'm a full-time resident of Banks Township, and I am not in favor of repealing the zoning. And I don't know anything about social media posts or any other things that are happening outside of just what this issue is. And it appears that there's 2 issues. One is repealing zoning and property rights, and it sounds like there's a conflict of interest. And if there's a conflict of interest, you need to recuse yourself from voting. And that's not my opinion. That's just the word. That's the law. So that's one issue. The other is, if you have a personal interest in this and the zoning ordinances don't make sense, then we need to bring this back together. And there's been a lot of suggestions about committees. I think if things need to be changed, that's the way to do it. The lady before me said, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's absolutely true. There is a better way to do this. And we need to come together as a community to provide some kind of structure and laws so that the things that are happening with data centers and other things going around in the country aren't happening here. I think this is a good thing that we're having this conversation, and I give you credit for bringing it up because I believe that we can bring ourselves closer to where we really should be and make sure that the conflict of interest is removed. And if this has to come to a public vote, fine, but please make the right decision here. Don't make Banks Township such an exception in the entire country that we don't have laws. Otherwise, you're not going to have a tax base, businesses won't come here, or you'll have the wrong businesses coming here. So I just implore you to make the right decision. And if you do have a conflict, don't take this up as a vote tonight. Find another route. And please just make the right decision. Thank you.
Hello, name's Rick Evans. I'm a full-time resident of Banks Township since February of 1999. So I was involved, and not necessarily involved, but around for the first adoption of the zoning ordinances, and I know that there was a lot of headaches and a lot of tension around that, even coming into the zoning. But the fact now, echo a lot of things that were said tonight, Marv in particular. I mean, whether or not there's an application on the table right now, I mean, I serve on a lot of boards. You have to recuse yourself. I mean, it's as simple as that. I mean, I don't understand being in a governing body, how you can serve on a board, have a personal interest potentially of very large dollars, and I know, yeah, there's a lot of things at play, but that's just part of you have to recuse yourself. There's no way you could take a vote on something you could directly, personally, financially gain from. That's just kind of how this gig works. If you want to change things, that's not the seat to be in to do it, quite honestly. I mean, I know that's just kind of how it is. We all live downstream to some degree or another. Water is a huge issue that a lot of people have brought up. We all live downstream, so whether or not somebody's even from this township, I mean, anybody downstream is kind of part of the gig anymore. I mean, we all are old enough, a lot of us are old enough to recognize that you can have one bad player, and that can spoil a lot of things. I think the water plume in Bel Air is a very good example of that, affecting an untold number of people in ecological systems. So we are all part of a bigger system, whether we want to be or not, and we have to respect that. I think the zoning ordinances allow us at least the space to debate that. If we repeal all that, all of a sudden we don't have anything to base any of that on. So I'm certainly very supportive of keeping the zoning, and if there's any conflict of interest, I would certainly hope and respect that any members that have any kind of a conflict of interest would recuse themselves from any decision. Thank you.
Banks Township. I am for the repealing of the zoning. As has been said quite well by a lady who was here earlier, there's already protection in place, federal, state. We don't really need to be stacking laws and ordinances and further bureaucracy. One on top of the other just doesn't make any sense, so go ahead and repeal it. I believe a gentleman was here mentioned that there's a petition going around, which I have signed, that will actually put this on the ballot. So somebody mentioned bringing in democracy. Awesome. Let's go ahead and put it on the ballot. Let the people of Banks Township vote. You won't have to worry about who's saying what here. The people will vote one way or the other. And as for whether or not one member of this board or another ought to recuse themselves because they will benefit from the repeal of zoning, none of you can vote. Not one of you can vote. Yes, Marv Rubin will be able to put in his gravel pit with zoning's on. You'll be able to build a deck on your house without zoning and without having to go through the zoning process. You'll be able to build a shed in your backyard without having to go through all that. It benefits all of you. The fact that it happens to benefit one more than the others shouldn't be an issue. Thank you.
Pat McCanowitz, Banks Township. I want to first start by apologizing to Marv, Richard, and Julie for all the lies and misinformation that has been levied against you throughout this whole process. And contrary to popular belief, Marv is not the reason why we're here tonight. I am. With my brother and a few people that we recruited, we started this repeal zoning movement in this township. We did this after I had an unfortunate and deplorable run-in with zoning officials. That led for me to read up on the zoning ordinances, only to discover just how heavy-handed, burdensome, and overreaching zoning is in Banks Township. These ordinances are so bad that potential businesses have been driven away due to how restrictive the rules are, and it's been publicly stated by business owners that they try to stay away from Banks Township because of how bad the ordinance is. I tried to go the normal channels in order to get the ordinances changed, only to find out that they're slow-moving and cumbersome. Unless, of course, you're part of the special select group of people, then your issues will get taken care of in a prompt manner. We can see that by the unveiling of this atrocious master plan, the future of Banks Township is nothing but even more erosion of private property rights. It's gotten so bad now that you guys want to control the swimming pools, tell us how many, what size campers we can have in our yards, And now we have to worry about the zoning administrator sniffing around our toilets. Now I can see there are quite a few people here to speak on behalf of keeping zoning. I want you to ask yourself, how many of these people live here, vote here, pay taxes here? How many of these people are your constituents? I'm sure it's not that many. While we have submitted petitions with real constituents' names, over 200 people the first time, 125 the second time, each of those should be counted as an equivalent to a written letter. These are the people you need to answer to. Now I'm sure why you're asking yourself why they aren't speaking up for themselves, well the answer is they don't want to have a target painted on their back. Everyone has seen or heard the lies or misinformation that has been spread by our esteemed neighbors. They are afraid that will happen to them as well. We now have seen how willing certain leaders are able to discourage people that they disagree with. They have gone so far as to have their lies printed in local papers, hence me apologizing to you board members at the beginning of this speech. The people that are here say that they're here to protect water. In reality, they are here to protest Marv. The rest of us are here because we want our rights and freedoms restored to us as property owners. Now, having said that, Alex, at the beginning of this meeting, I'm very happy to call you supervisor. What you did with Marv, Richard, and the rest of you, thank you for that.
Okay. Please don't interrupt each other or anybody else. Let's just be good to one another.
Good evening, John Frisky. I am from Banks Township. Our family has been for 3 generations. I would like to also comment on this conflict of interest thing just because we have heard it so many times. So that has been completely debunked. You cannot have a conflict of interest when an issue such as zoning affects the entirety of the township. The board wouldn't be able to do their job if they weren't allowed to support or oppose issues that affect the entirety of the township and by default themselves. That's why we vote for the people in these positions, because we elect people that we believe reflect our own will as the citizens. The township attorney has confirmed this as a fact. If an issue gave a particular individual advantage to a board member, that would be different, but you can't make that case when an issue affects everyone. If there's a majority who want zoning, those of us who believe it would be best removed will accept that and would work to reform it to be less burdensome. Even though that would be quite a process. Anyone that has been to a bunch of these meetings, has gone to a planning commission meeting, it is way easier said than done that we will just amend and reform the zoning ordinance as it is. But if a majority do not want zoning, then those who do want it should respect that outcome and work to be neighborly in efforts to resolve differences that might arise. Were zoning to be repealed, a few specific ordinances could be passed by the board aside from zoning to address specific scenarios that have been brought up as concerns, such as large solar farms, strip clubs, towers, wind turbines, etc. This approach would still allow for a repeal of the lengthy and extensive zoning that causes frustrations and problems over much smaller, less impactful issues, as well as save the township the time and expenses associated with zoning as it currently exists, such as the position of zoning administrator, the planning commission, the board of appeals, all the legal counsel that goes into all the back and forth regarding all the issues surrounding zoning, all the required and associated meetings. The only way to truly yield to the will of the voters on this issue is to allow us to vote, and the only way to do that is for the board to vote for the initial repeal. Whether you personally support zoning in its entirety or not, please consider that allowing this to go to a vote of the people is certainly the most fair and unbiased way to resolve this issue for the township. There are many voices speaking to the debate from outside the township. The noise of all of this distracts from the main point. The people who should decide this issue are the tax-paying resident voters of Banks Township. We have never been given that opportunity, and it is time. Thank you.
we live on. But a little bit of background, beginning half of my career was in broadcast communications, radio and television. My responsibility was to keep people informed. The second half of my career was right where you're sitting now, in 2 communities, working in public service and serving the public. My comments are we going to cave in to those who say, nobody's going to tell me what I can do on my property? We're hearing a lot about how much better things were before zoning, and the dismissive attitude about people who aren't from around here. If we're going to have any hope of preserving anything or having any control in our community, we have an obligation to think this through. From the people who want to blow up planning and zoning, are you hearing any realistic plan to protect us from the impact our neighbors will be allowed to inflict on whoever lives nearby? Don't you think we should figure that out before we are all exposed to the chaos that happens when we have no restraints and we have no plan to control what comes next? We grow up expecting that we should be able to rely on our elected and appointed officials to represent us, to preserve the peace, the safety, and stability of where we live. If our elected representatives are going to put their own personal interests above those of the people who they promised to represent, then we know what we have to do. We have to get Banks Township back on track with honest and respectable, responsible people who understand and respect what the concept of public service is all about. The board's vote has resulted in a lot of people promoting the idea that local government is the problem. Every one of you were elected to represent us in local government. Let's take action tonight to demonstrate that local government is our tool for preventing problems and solving the ones we can't prevent. It will only take one of you to change your vote. One vote is all it will take to prevent what will assuredly result in an enormous amount of public humiliation and media embarrassment for you and for our township. It's not too late. As our representatives, you can still fulfill your public service obligation and put this divisive issue behind us right here and right now, tonight. Thank you.
Hello again, Dr. Mitch Disson, Banks Township. Thank you for introducing me, lovely neighbor. Although gotcha, I'm not talking about gravel pits today. So, and in truth, I don't know what I'm going to talk about because I wanted to speak from the heart tonight. Because this is a quite emotional issue for me, mainly because my wife and I chose this area. My wife is Polish. She's not allowed in the country yet. She might hopefully be allowed in, hopefully in a month here. Thanks to Mr. Government, we've had quite the process trying to get her in. We chose this place because she's a farmer. We wanted to live amongst farmers. Don't know if you always had this much drama in this community, but we wanted a quiet rural community. It's been anything but thus far. So yeah, when we first moved here, we actually thought this was unzoned. Our realtor was terrible at their job. And we were quite psyched about it. I thought that zoning was always about freedom. We wanted to put an eco-resort on our land, make some use of it. Yeah, and I think we were just all happy thinking that we lived in an unzoned area. We came to find out we didn't. Yeah, and that, I see that as a state of lesser ignorance before I really learned what zoning was truly about. So over the past few months, our nonprofit has been leading the fight against data centers statewide. We organized the protest in Lansing. We're organizing another protest, statewide protest, coming up here in mid-March. And I have to tell you, Marv, I don't think you're evil at all. In fact, I prefer you as my enemy relative to the data centers and the big tech people, because these people are a considerable evil. And I know I don't think you're evil at all. But again, what I'm seeing statewide is that these big tech corporations are specifically targeting unzoned rural townships because they know they're underutilized, they're underfunded. They know that they can prey on them. And so this is what zoning is truly about. It's about protection. It's about protection from ignorance. It's about protection from greediness. It's about protection from considerable evil. because I don't have to remind everybody here too that basically every single CEO and founder of big tech corporations who want to come into Michigan, every single one was basically named in the Epstein files. These are not good bedfellows. These are not people that we want in our backyards. So this is why this zoning issue is so much more than about freedom. It's about protection from outside influence coming in to our lands and destroying our beauty here. And I just want to end on one thing here too. So I went to the Planning Commission at the Antrim Planning Commission meeting early December here. Brian Graham is a well-respected attorney. He sits on the Planning Commission. He said, he went on record saying that you need to recuse yourself. And I really trust his opinion because he's a very well-renowned attorney in this area. So please take that into consideration. And yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks, man.
Teacher, you're supposed to listen to directions, aren't you?
Retired. Yeah. Rob Essenberg, Banks Township resident. Appreciate you guys being here. Appreciate your service. We're fighting a problem that's kind of, and just thinking about it, as old as time. The preamble of the Constitution, I believe, starts out with "we the people," or does it start out with "we the individual"? But right away, right after the Constitution, we went to the Bill of Rights to try to balance those two things of group and individual. And you guys are sitting in that spot again tonight. And hopefully, thank you, everyone. I know I'm not supposed to address the crowd, but for being part of We the People, because really, truly, we are fortunate to be in a democracy where we can agree to disagree, agreeably or disagreeably in some cases, but where we do have the opportunity to talk to each other, to listen to each other. And then the last thing I'll say is in my English class, I used to write a paper and Dr. Dago would just nail me to the wall because I would say something like, I think, or I believe, and she would, big, bold, red letters, I don't care what you think, tell me what the facts are. And boy, they're kind of interesting to figure out what those are as I've sat through multiple of these that you have and trying to hear somebody that you know, and you know that that really isn't true, although I think they think it's true, and I've been in the same boat where I've been like, oh, that sounds right, but then realized later it wasn't. So good luck sorting out the facts, but I encourage you to work hard at sorting out the facts too, not the feelings and beliefs. All right, my 3 minutes are almost up.
All right, we got 90 more seconds.
Hi, I'm Mitch Treadwell from Traverse City, Michigan. I don't envy the position you're in. This isn't the sort of issue that you necessarily expect when you run for a township board. And I know because I'm a city commissioner down in Traverse City. And I would be, if I envy something about your position, it's the fact that so many people are here to speak out about something that they feel strongly about. We can be lucky in even a much larger city to have a dozen people come out on something that does affect the entire community. And zoning is certainly something that can affect a community. It is one of the few tools, and that's what it is, a tool that can provide guidance of how the community should and will develop in the future. Whether you want certain uses next to other uses. And that is one of the ways that you can protect the charm that you have here in Banks Township. That you can keep Atwood the adorable, that you can keep Ellsworth as elegant as it is, by recognizing that those are community centers and can have certain uses that you wouldn't have otherwise. And through that, concentrating certain uses in certain places, you can preserve more of the rural character in the surrounding area. If you are here in Ellsworth, you don't have to worry about a shoe factory going in right next door or a sawmill and making a lot of noise that is difficult to sleep. But there are places where those could open in Banks Township. If you are a farmer, you're not worried about some developer from up in Charlevoix buying the 20 acres next to you, putting in 30 houses that, yes, housing is a need, But if you change it to that more suburban character, then you have a lot of people that could complain if you decide to have more cows on your farm, as is your right. Zoning is a way that we can have those limits of what goes where, and we can plan for the future. Can it get too much into the weeds? Absolutely. Last month I had a meeting in which we spoke for 45 minutes about the definitions for fences and how they should be permitted. But Banks Township has a much slimmer zoning code than Traverse City. Can it be reformed? Absolutely. That's the important part of the process, is that zoning is a tool. It is a transparent tool that goes before the whole community, that has to go through the planning department, has to go through the township board, and gets the entire community aware of the changes that are coming before it and how we can plan for those in the future. Thank you.
My feet are asleep. Sorry, I haven't sat in the bleacher in a while. Tyler Strange, Banks Township. Alex, if I had known that this is what it all boiled down to and you asked me to sit on the planning commission, I would have told you no. Everyone knows the pros and the cons of each. I think you all know where I stand on it. I made that pretty clear when we did our planning commission meeting. But I think there's a path forward for change. I think to repeal zoning, just to go back and say, hey, we need to protect ourselves from various situations, developers, uncontested corporate money coming in, isn't that what zoning's here for in the beginning? We can make paths forward and change. In terms of, there's an issue with the budget and how much money we spend with consultants and lawyer firms. Why don't we lean that down? Create standard operating procedures within the township for each board, so that the planning commission, the township commissioner board here, and others throughout it can follow, so we don't need to constantly have that representation and spend that money. I also think it would be helpful to put another survey out to the community to find where the big problem items are, so that way the planning commission can have a conversation on it and get more community involvement that way. It's not a perfect process. I'm well aware of that. I don't think we need to throw it out, but let's change it. Let's not remove it completely, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
My name is Bill Vandercook, and I'm a plant. I live on Harriet Center Road. I have a house up here in Michigan. I just want to say something. Alex started out, and I just want to encourage this. The good book says to love your neighbor as yourself. Whatever the vote comes tonight, just keep that in mind, right? You got neighbors, you might not agree with them, but just go back to that. The other thing, what we do, whatever you decide to do is going to affect somebody, okay? If you decide you want police powers, that's going to affect somebody. If you want zoning, that's going to affect somebody, okay? It's not just going to affect your neighbors here in Banks Township. Sometimes we get thinking about, we're just all about banks, okay? I was a little kid when my grandfather said in Roanoke, Michigan, some of you heard this before, that he asked me on the front porch, he said, Billy, what do you think I could see from this house when I built it in 1916? I said, I don't know, Grandpa. I was 10 years old. He said, only 4 farms. I was standing surrounded in houses. That struck with me and stuck with me all my life. As a real estate broker for over 30 years, I gave up my license this last year. As a real estate broker, I stood in a farm hill one day, and a farmer said to me about his land. When I told him, I said, wow, look at all the houses you could put on this property. He said, what? Spoil that view? That changed my whole attitude about land, the way we look at it. It really did. It was like somebody pierced me up on that hill. We need to think about like the resources we have, how we protect those resources, what we do. And I'm talking about someone that worked with all kind of government, federal agencies by special request, state agencies by special request, county agencies by special request, nonprofits by special request, being a zoning administrator, going to school for urban and rural planning, okay? I'm not talking just because I feel it. I've seen it statewide. I've been a part of it. I would suggest just looking back at your zoning. If it isn't right, look at the zoning again, look at the master plan, look at the zoning, and don't just vote it away. And if you do, there's processes that you can go through to try to bring it all back, if that's what you want as a township. But remember, your neighbors, and your neighbors to other townships, to counties, to the state. Thank you.
Anybody else? There we go.
Hello, I'm Walter Rosenthal from Marion Township. I own property in Antrim County, and I am a developer too. I try to make affordable housing for people, and it's very difficult with all the zoning regulations. It's very, very difficult. And even if you can, like to make low-income housing is almost impossible because the cost of property is so high, and then you're regulated to only maybe putting 1 or 2 dwellings on it when you buy it. It makes it so then you can't offer that property for lower income people. If you could put a few more houses, double that or triple it, you know, maybe 10 acres or something, you'd have the ability to take care of this. This is one of the biggest problems here. Like in Charlevoix, the city of Charlevoix, most of the houses are owned by people from downstate, and they're used as Airbnbs, and they're not even available for rent for regular people, none of the houses. And you know, you go out in the country, out here in Antrim and stuff, property is so expensive. People are worried about what's going to happen when there's no zoning. They're freaking out. But there's lots of townships in Antrim County that don't have zoning. Okay? And when you drive through Antrim County, you can't tell the difference. You drive from one place to another. You can't see south of East Jordan that there's no zoning. You can't see by Torch Lake that there's no zoning. You can go down by Elba and stuff. All that's not zoned. Okay? There's no difference. It's not like there's factories and all kinds of garbage going up, but the regulations here make it so hard to do anything that I think we need to remove the zoning. Already there's regulations in the county. The county regulates it. I can't even build a tiny house in a non-zoned township in Antrim. Was asking about it to build like a 300 square foot tiny house for low-income people. Can't do it because the county, Antrim County, says at least one room has to be, I think it's 300 or 350 square feet. And then you've got your other rooms, you know, your bedroom and your bathroom, and all of a sudden you get up in the square footage again where things start getting more and more expensive. Okay, so the less regulation, the better we wouldn't have the problems we have. You know, property taxes, just got my assessments, they're all up. You know what I mean? This is ridiculous. We're just renting the property from you in the state of Michigan. We don't own the property. Just stop paying your property taxes. What's going to happen? There's going to be a guy with a gun that comes to your door and is going to take it away from you. All right? We need to turn this around. We need to start giving rights back to the people and start standing up for our rights and bring some freedom back in this country, because government always grows. It never gets smaller. It always grows. Our township in Marion, where I live, constantly adding more pages to the zoning all the time. It's just more and more and more and more and more. Okay, it never stops. It never goes less. It never goes down. It always gets bigger and bigger. Sorry.
Okay,
I like everything that guy just said about the driving around the other townships. I did the same. There's no difference. I have family in about every other township in the Antrim County, and you can't really tell a difference. We pay money for things that are, you call them protection, but really there's a million other things that it could go toward that would do us all better. So recently, there's been discussion about rewriting the zoning ordinance in an effort to soften things up, make things more acceptable, potentially avoiding a vote of the people. Though this may be well-intentioned, it conflicts with the principle of representation this township stands on. We saw how the master plan draft came in with additional stringent ordinance proposals, and couldn't even believe that with all of the talk about fixing zoning all fall, that we're still headed in that direction. If zoning goes on the ballot and it passes, that is the will of the people and we accept it. If it goes to the ballot and fails, we all accept it as well. That is how elections work. This is how America does business. In a free system, both winners and losers walk away respecting the result because the people decided. I live in the southeast corner of Banks Township. I have a lot of good neighbors. They've been there for generations, and I hope my family's there for generations too. We're not going to sell our properties to build subdivisions or AI centers, whatever. My one neighbors, they have like world-class hunting dogs. They're very pride their dogs. They bark all the time, and but I don't care. That's what they love. That's their dreams, and it's great. My other neighbor loves to shoot her firearm. She was a police officer. She empties 5 clips a day, it seems. But I don't care. That's what she loves. She's good at it. She's my good neighbor. And my other neighbor, he built like the world's largest skyscraper silo that overlooks my property. I don't care. It's beautiful and it's awesome, and it's like a dream for everybody to see what agriculture is and what it can be. Anyway, I ask you respectfully, trust the voters. Their personal agendas, political convenience, backlash, all of that, nasty grams, not fun. Take all this off your shoulder and just let the voters vote. We just interviewed hundreds of people not yesterday, but the last few days, and I've got that petition rolling. And we all said, come to the meeting on Thursday, and people just laughed. No, I'll sign your paper, I'll show up to vote, but I'm not coming to that. Retaliation is everybody's fear, and fair enough, but there's a lot of people that really, were you there? Okay, thank you, Alex. All right, yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot, Paul.
All right, I'm Jesse Anderson, Banks Township resident, taxpayer. I'm going to keep this short and sweet. Just by looking in this room, we've had to bring it to the gymnasium to the point where we couldn't pack enough people in the town hall anymore. If that doesn't say that it's passionate for each and everybody here, it's an understatement. I don't know when the last time we had a town hall meeting in a gymnasium for Banks Township, if ever. It shows that there are enough people here that are passionate on both sides of this thing. And the burden shouldn't be on your shoulders and your shoulders alone. We trust our township to have votes, to elect people in here. We trust them for that, and we should trust them for this. I would like you guys to repeal zoning in a way that it can get on the ballot. That is my sole focus, is to be able to have the township be able to have a vote. That's all I want. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. Oh, Dave. Just me. Sorry.
Dave Rasmussen, Banks Township. I'm not going to attack anyone. I'm not going to regurgitate anything that was said tonight. I'm going to touch base on things that you guys do understand, and that's your budget and the financials that you deal with. I went to your last budget hearing meeting, and you went through the line by line just like we have for years, and we're very thoughtful of each line item. Zoning goes away. My concern is, so does the $130,000 that the tower generates for this township, which is a third of your operating budget. Provides a lot of things for this community that they might not even realize that they're getting. Gives us some flexibility for, a fire truck purchase or repairs at the cemetery or the township hall, or things that our normal tax dollars are not going to cover. It's been proven that property values are less in unzoned communities, which means lower tax base, which means less money. Less money for the tower, less money for taxes. How are you going to balance that budget? Raise taxes, right? No one here wants to see that happen. I've always been proud of the fact that our taxes are quite low in comparison to some of our surrounding neighborhoods, and what we can do with such a small amount of money, and being very carefully considered everything that's been faced before, previous boards and this board, as far as how can we improve our township. So again, my thoughts and concerns, but a big one is, what are you going to do with a third less of your budget? That's all I can say. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I just have a question. A gentleman said that he doubted that many of us are actual residents and or registered voters. If everyone in here could tell the truth and would just raise their hand, yes, they are a landowner and yes, they are a registered voter, I would be curious for you all to see how many of us really truly are. More than 50%? Thank you all.
Yeah, we're going to take a quick minute. I'm going to pull this thing up. We're just going to talk about start talking. So we'll be right back. Take a stretch for a second. All right, I think we got most, if not everybody, back. So we're gonna continue on here. First thing we'll do is have a motion to close the public hearing. Richard moves. Katie supports. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed the same. Motion carries. The public hearing is now closed. Probably should have done that first, but oh well. Case we're on. All right, so now we'll move into the zoning ordinance review and discussion, and if we want to take any action tonight based on what we've heard in this public hearing. So I think we probably do want to do that and put this behind us a little bit, at least this portion of it, whatever may happen. So I'll take a motion one way or the other, and then we can start discussing it. You want a motion to approve it, or do you want me to read it? I can read it. You have any recommendations, Catherine?
So the proposed ordinance is an ordinance to repeal. So if you made a motion to approve the ordinance, that would be to repeal. Okay, if you made a motion to reject the ordinance or not accept it, that would be to retain zoning as it exists now.
Okay. When I made the initial motion to repeal zoning in September of last year, I made it clear at that time that I was doing so because it was the only way to bring this matter to a township-wide vote, which I believed was the right thing to do in light of the significant controversy that was building around the issue. I said at that time, and I want to remind you all again, that when I got on this board, voted in 24, I basically supported zoning. And I told everybody that publicly and privately. But what I saw in my first year on the board started to change my thinking some, but what I really concluded was that it was becoming so controversial that I really believe the people of the township, all the registered voters, need to have the opportunity to vote on it. Now several months, numerous meetings and public comments, and much discussion later since that initial motion in September, I believe more strongly than ever that a vote of the township electors is the only right way forward. The option of quote-unquote fixing zoning to make it more workable may be worth pursuing if zoning is voted back in by the electorate, but I believe it's futile to attempt to quote-unquote fix unless there's a vote first. I believe that for at least the following reasons. Number one, as our representative on the Planning Commission, I've seen firsthand how slow, laborious, costly, and even contentious even minor changes have been. The planning firm or consultant seems to have inordinate influence in the process. Number two, even our zoning administrator has indicated and or commented repeatedly that he thinks quote-unquote fixing zoning is questionable, if not futile. He cites the RV ordinance as a prime example, a long, drawn-out process with a dubious outcome. And lastly, past history informs us that the process is likely to be very protracted, costly, contentious, and in the end, not very effective. For these reasons, I don't believe it's worth the effort and expense to fix zoning unless we know that the majority of our township voters want zoning badly enough to vote it in. A few things stand out to me from the voluminous public comments that we've received over the last 6 months, including tonight. First of all, I think that an inordinate amount of comments continue to focus on the gravel mine and erroneous fears associated with it. Secondly, a significant amount of pro-zoning comments are from non-Banks Township residents. Conversely, I don't recall a single anti-zoning comment from non-residents. And lastly, the conflict of interest allegations leveled at certain board members by pro-zoning advocates have been egregious and damaging. And I do appreciate Alex clarifying that and coming to our defense in that regard. Even though those board members, and I'm one of them, have been vindicated by the opinion of our township attorney. In light of what I've expressed here, which is merely a brief synopsis of the situation we're in, I implore each of you to do what I believe is right for the voters that elected us, and join me this evening in allowing our electorate to decide this very contentious issue. Again, as I stated at the outset, and at the time I made the original motion back in September, I ask you to see a vote to repeal zoning for what it truly is, a vote to allow our residents to decide this critical matter, not just potentially, the narrow majority of this 5-member board. I believe this is the only way to bring unity back to our divided township. And with that said, I would like to make the motion that we repeal zoning.
So would that be the clarified motion to adopt the ordinance to repeal?
Yes, thank you. I would make the motion that we adopt this ordinance to repeal zoning.
I'll support that.
All right, we have motion and support. And you're up.
I'm up. So I'd like to tell you a story about zoning in Banks Township. I've been involved in zoning for decades in Banks Township, but this is a personal story. You probably heard that I'm in the process of building a silo. Now, a silo on a farm is really a thing of the past. It's like nostalgia. There's no modern farmer has built a silo in the last 40 years. However, this time, someone came up with a silo that is bigger, faster, and cheaper than ever before. In fact, this one is so huge, it's never before been attempted. If this silo is built and works, it will be the largest forage silo in the world. It may go into the Guinness Book of World Records in Banks Township. Now, the only reason that this is possible is because I'm not subject to zoning. If I had to follow the zoning ordinance, it would not be allowable in Banks Township. In Michigan, we have the Right to Farm Act. The Right to Farm Act supersedes local zoning. This silo and many buildings and activities carried out on farms in Banks Township are not subject to the zoning ordinance. A business has a lot more potential to survive if it does not have to be burdened by government regulations. I would like to give this kind of opportunity to others in Banks Township and see great things happen here. So you can understand that this attempt to repeal zoning is not about me. It's about opportunity for my constituents who elected me to this office. Zoning regulations have a cost to the community. The cost in the budget and in taxes has already been mentioned in previous meetings, but there's much greater cost than just taxes. It is lost opportunity. I've personally seen losses to our community. These are not hypothetical, these are real. I can document them if you would like. I recall specific incidences of attempts to invest in Banks Township. A welding shop was established in the township. Zoning requirements were not initially met, and then later enforced by the township. The business found the requirements too burdensome and sold the property and moved his business to a neighboring township a few miles away. An application was made to build a motel in Banks Township along the US 31 corridor. The applicant attended some planning commission meetings and began sharing plans and answering questions and adhering to requirements. After several months with some delays, the project was abandoned due to the excessive zoning ordinance requirements. A new church was forming in the area and was exploring various properties in which to build. Banks Township was the preferred location. The church leaders studied the Banks Township zoning ordinance and decided to move the location a few miles away so that the burdensome regulations of the ordinance did not have to be followed. More recently, the stipulations in our ordinances have turned away an investment in natural resource extraction and in using an existing abandoned building for storage units. The investments that would have been made in these and many other ventures would have added resources, jobs, tax base, and taxes to our community and children for our local schools. One thing that the Banks Township zoning ordinance does is discriminate against the poor or the lower income people. As has been said, all the township expenses that are used for zoning could have been used to lower taxes. Whenever taxes are lower, it enables owners to keep property that they have, instead of forcing a sale if there's not enough money in the property owner's budget to pay the property tax. But more than that, the ordinance does not allow for the most basic starter home to be built. We heard that earlier. Except in one small designated location in the township, many young or beginning families could afford a starter home for a few years to get established, and then be able to build a larger, more permanent structure. The way to have school-aged children in the community is to have more opportunities for young families. We also discriminate against lower-income property owners through our RV or recreational vehicle provisions. We limit the use of an RV, I don't recall exactly, but we limit it to a short time. If a person can only afford or owns a vacation lot, and he's limited to a certain number of days per year. But if a landowner has enough money and resources to build a house on their parcel, then we allow them to live in an RV for 2 whole consecutive years. There's no significant difference in the environmental impact of someone using an RV on their property, whether they are building a house or not. Now, during the last year or so, we have heard that we need to compromise, to find a middle ground, to fix the ordinance, to make it more acceptable to the majority. Maybe we need an ad hoc committee to find this middle ground. Well, right now, we have a planning commission made up of 5. 1 person that loves zoning and wants to keep it at all costs, 1 person who has a desire to eliminate zoning, and 3 other members who are okay with zoning but want to make it simpler or more reasonable. There could be no better balance of zoning representation on a committee than what we have right now in our planning commission. It's a good cross-section of ideas. So, let's see how they've done. 1, gravel. The Township Board asked the Planning Commission to change the gravel ordinance to make it more friendly and change it so that it would stand up in court. They discussed it, the Planning Commission then discussed it for a month or 2, and then the Planning Commission chair took it upon herself to write up a draft ordinance. That draft has been set on the shelf, and the planner came up with 3 examples from other townships, and then insisted that the attorney be hired to modify the existing flawed ordinance. So how did the new, simpler gravel ordinance go after a year of work? No solution. And ignore the Banks Township people's preferences through our chair. Number 2, setbacks. The Township Board asked the Planning Commission to review setbacks and either reduce or eliminate them. The Planning Commission itself voted to eliminate front road setbacks and asked the planner to write language to facilitate such. At the next meeting, the planner not only did not bring language, he said that it would not be desirable to eliminate front road setbacks. After that setback, pun intended, the Planning Commission decided to increase setbacks on some road setbacks and reduce others from 35 to 20 feet. For example, I have 2 parcels that adjoin each other. Currently, 1 parcel, then these parcels are on Ellsworth Road. Currently, 1 parcel has a 35-foot setback. The other parcel has a 15-foot setback. Now, the Planning Commission came up with a solution. Make all road setbacks 20 feet. Well, that increases the setback on one of my parcels and decreases it on the other one. So, here, we did not get a compromise. My way of thinking a compromise would be, well, we have 35 now, and 0 would be the other end of the spectrum. Compromise would probably be, 17 feet or so. Instead, we increased the setbacks on some and decreased it on some others and left at least 80% of the setbacks the same. In one instance, the appeals board desired to grant a variance on a setback that could not be done according to the wording of the ordinance. 100% of the members of the appeals board thought that the property owners should be able to reduce the setback to build their addition or whatever they wanted to build. However, the planning commission did not take that into account in setting their setback to 20 feet. So the result did not translate into any reduction of regulation to allow a similar request next time. Multifamily dwellings. The township board passed a motion asking the planning commission to allow multifamily dwellings in the township. The planning commission then passed a motion to have the planner draft language to allow multifamily dwellings. The planner came back to the next meeting without draft language and said that we do not want to allow multifamily dwellings, but we could allow two-family dwellings in some areas. Then at a subsequent meeting, the planner came with draft language to allow two-family dwellings in some parts of the township. My point in these examples is to show that it is almost impossible to simplify or compromise or significantly reduce regulation through a committee. Whenever a government body has power over broad decisions, the body develops a thought process that is, we know best and we need to keep control over those below us. The reality is that if a property owner has rights, then the property owner also has responsibilities to use and care for that property. This brings me to where we are today. We have heard from a large number of constituents on the zoning issue. We brought the issue into the public spotlight. The people have educated themselves on the issue, and it is our job as elected officials to listen to the people. This is no longer about my personal opinion or any one of our personal opinions or desires regarding township zoning. We have this opportunity to let the people decide this issue. Tonight's decision has changed from a decision on whether to repeal zoning to a decision to let the people vote on it and determine their own future. And based on your public comments, my position has changed. I came in a year ago that the township board should repeal zoning. Now, hearing all of you and all of your concerns, it is not the township board's responsibility, it is your responsibility to determine what you want as rules for this township, whether you want zoning or not. In fact, I believe that everyone on this board, if we do not vote to let you make the decision, because for whatever reason, maybe we're too proud of ourselves, egotistical, or whatever the reason may be, then we should not be here because you put us here. You made that decision. That being said, I also wanted to tell you that this is not just about Banks Township. This is a statewide issue in many other places. I'm under the understanding that right now there's a bill being drafted in the House of Representatives of Michigan that will repeal the Zoning and Enabling Act. And so our legislators are talking about this. We got a notice from Michigan Townships Association that says there are 4 bills introduced impacting township. 1 prohibits local ordinances from requiring a minimum parcel or lot size greater than 1,500 square feet for detached single-family residence. 2 prohibits a minimum parcel size greater than 1,500 square feet for detached single-family residence where the parcel is accessible and will be served by public water and public sewer. 3, it creates a 60-day decision shot clock after receipt of an application by a local unit of government, even an incomplete application. And 4, creates a statewide definition of duplex. Mandates that duplex are a permitted use in any district where single-family residences are allowed and not subject to any procedures different from a single-family residence. Setbacks It mandates setback requirements at 15 feet or less from the front property line and 5 feet from the sides and rear for dwellings or outbuildings if the local unit of government is located in whole or in part within a metropolitan statistical area. So while these will not all affect Banks Township, it just tells you that this is an issue that is not just here, it's all over the state. So I would ask Alex, we talked a year or two ago about zoning in Banks Township, and my recollection is you told me you did not want to repeal zoning, but you were okay with a vote of the people. I would challenge you to stick by those words that you told me. Katie, you've been concerned about getting this on the ballot. I understand with this petition that was handed in, your concerns are alleviated. Please vote in favor of letting the people vote. Julie, I recall that at the last vote to repeal, after hesitation, you said, I vote to repeal because it's going to put it on the ballot. Let's go that way. Let's put it on the ballot and let the people decide. Thank you.
All right, so you get motion support, and this is the discussion phase.
What is zoning? What is its purpose? Do we need it? I've heard many answers to those questions. Some say zoning is necessary to control what people do on their land, that people need to be controlled. Others say it exists to prohibit what a neighbor can do with their land. Others believe it restricts freedoms and should not exist at all. Before we argue about it, we should understand what it actually is. In Michigan, zoning authority comes from the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act, which authorizes local governments to regulate land use to promote the public health, safety, and general welfare. Zoning is not meant to eliminate property rights. It regulates how those rights are exercised within a community. It is not meant to confiscate land. It is not meant to stop all development, and it is certainly not meant to be used as a weapon or a tool to control people. If zoning has ever been applied inconsistently or selectively, that is not a failure of the concept, it is a failure of leadership. Rules must apply equally to everyone, no favoritism, no punishment, no personal agendas. Before I ran for office, I will admit, I do not have strong opinions about zoning. What I care about most is how we treat one another. I care that neighbors respect neighbors. I care that decisions are made fairly and transparently. Over the past months, I have listened. I have read the ordinances. I've asked questions. I reviewed past files. I wanted to understand before reacting. What I have learned is this: people on both sides care deeply. Some want protection for the farmland and rural character. Others want the freedom to use their property without what they see as unnecessary restriction. Both concerns deserve respect. Zoning at its core is about creating predictability. It helps property owners understand what can happen next door and helps communities plan responsibly for the future. Whether we keep it, remove it, amend it, change it, that principle matters. What concerns me most is not whether someone supports zoning or opposes it, but how quickly we assume the worst about one another. Social media amplifies half-truths, rumors spread faster than facts, and when that happens, trust erodes. We do not have to agree, but we do have to treat each other with dignity. There's a group in the middle, people who support zoning but want fairness, and people who question zoning but want stability. Those are the voices I am listening to. Not the loudest voices, not the harshest ones, the thoughtful ones. The issue should not divide neighbors. It should challenge us to be better stewards of both our land and our relationships. At the end of the day, zoning is a tool. It can be used wisely, fairly, and consistently, or it can be misused. My responsibility is to not pick sides in a shouting match. My responsibility is to ensure fairness, transparency, and equal treatment under the law. When I cast my vote, it'll be on careful review, honest consideration of all perspectives, and my responsibility to this entire community, not one side or the other. It will not be based off of self-interest, pressure, or threats to vote one way or another. My duty is to the law, to fairness, and to every resident equally.
Okay. I have a few words to say, and that's kind of counter to what Richard and Mark had to say, which your words were well written and well spoken. Thank you. Banks Township is a community. We're a mix of full-time, year-round property owners, renters, and seasonal residents. We all love this place and we care for one another. What we do with our own property has an impact on our neighbors. Having zoning rules in place gives us a guidebook to follow so we can be good neighbors. Balancing individual freedoms with the safety and health of the entire community is no small feat. We all need to be involved in the process. A repeal of zoning that may or may not end up as a ballot question would shut many of our community members out of the decision-making process. All property owners will be affected by threats to our natural resources or unchecked development, but not all property owners can vote. The owners of the hallowed hunting land and the beloved multi-generational summer cottage have skin in this game, but they would be excluded from a formal vote. Their tax dollars support the local schools at a higher rate than we do, but they would have no voice. The entire village of Ellsworth, which is the heart of our little community, would be locked out of the vote. They still pay all the township taxes and are literally surrounded by the township, but would have no voice. So I am urging my fellow board members to reconsider the repeal of zoning and instead follow the moderate and proven course of public input, amendments to the ordinance, and progress. I feel that the path forward is best traveled with the input and guidance from all the members of our community, not just registered voters.
All right, I didn't prepare any remarks, so you guys are all going to get it from the hip tonight. But yeah, I think there's, again, I said this earlier tonight, there's a lot of good things on both sides. I will tell you that, ask my wife, ask my parents, ask my kids, I would bet significant money that no one has thought about zoning more than me, especially in the last 6 months, but even beyond that. I've been in this for 5 years, and trust me, the zoning administrator and I talk constantly about different issues and what's the best solution to get people remediation. If they have an issue, how can we fix this? How can we make it better for them? And we do that. The goal every time is, okay, how can we make this work for the property owner? It's their property. Unless there's something that is just dead set, you can't do it, we're gonna look for a way to make it work. And I feel like we've been pretty successful with that. There are specific examples that I could bring up. And we've worked very hard to do our best by everybody in the township. A lot of times you end up in neighbor disputes. That is an honest fact. Mark, you've said it before. That's a big problem with zoning, is it ends up being neighbor on neighbor and you end up in the middle of it. And I certainly have been in that. So, but at the same time, I've talked to a lot of people about this, both in the village, outside of the village, people who own property here, do not own property here, and the vast majority want us to keep it, but fix it. And I do think that's possible. Patty, I'm not trying to throw you under the bus here, but I think you've already taken one on the chin tonight, so it's not you. I really don't think it is, so please do not take offense, anybody on the planning commission. But I'm going to address a couple things that Marv brought up that I'd like to hit on. The RV ordinance, what a show that was, okay? That was a wreck. And there's a reason for that, is because everybody's trying to thread a needle. We're trying to hit the tiniest little nail, and it's just so hard. I think there are some things that we can do that will really improve that process. One of which would be to establish a waterfront zone that is separate from CR and that allows you to take care of the people who have small lots and have more of these interpersonal issues with with neighbors because they're less than an acre. I mean, you're really sitting on top of each other. Well, Katie, you got the closest neighbor. I don't know. I got a pretty close neighbor too. But the two of us probably have the closest neighbors on this board, and so I don't think a lot of, and even the planning commission too is very spread out. They got bigger parcels, and so I don't think people feel what that's like to have a 1 acre lot where your neighbor is 25 feet from you. I think we miss out on what that might be like. In fact, most of the people who have spoken in favor of getting rid of zoning, come to think of it, live on larger lots, and that's great. I mean, that's what I moved up here for. I could not have bought 90 acres anywhere else on planet Earth with my salary, but in Banks Township. I got lucky. Divine providence. I absolutely believe in that. And so I've got a big lot too. I'm lucky in that regard, but I could just as easily be on a 1 acre lot somewhere. I have lived in 1 acre lots in cities before. And so we lose that awareness of what that's like to live right next to somebody and want to have a few protections. But the items that you brought up, we got gravel ordinance, the RV ordinance, let's see, setbacks, they took some time. There's a few things. So last fall, 2 falls ago, November of 24, at the November meeting, there was a gravel ordinance in front of the board. And there were some changes that I thought needed to be made, and the whole board did actually. The whole previous board agreed that it was too much. And I had gone down and worked with Elmer's, whatever, you know what Elmer's is. They got lots of pits and whatnot. I went down to their Empire pit and I talked to them straight up. All right, what is wrong with this ordinance? Because they all read it. And as well, it's just too restrictive on a couple of things, like how tall can our piles be and a whole bunch of that kind of stuff. And so it came to the board in November of 24, and rather than extend a moratorium so that no one could apply, because I knew there was at least 3 people that I knew of that wanted to get into gravel mining in this community. I wanted them to be able to apply. I wanted you to be able to apply. I've told you that before, Mark. I wanted you to just apply. Let's see what we can make happen. Let's get it done. And it didn't work out. We passed that ordinance, and I'm getting back to the whole planning commission thing here. Follow along. It's a long walk. So we asked the planning commission to make some changes and fix them. And they did, in 3 months. December was pretty short, it's a Christmas month. Then you had January and I think February that you guys passed it. I don't remember exactly, I'd have to look it up, but that was put before us in April or May because Bauckham-Thal was our attorneys at that time. It addressed all the issues that Elmer's, which is a massive company who does a lot of this kind of work, the problems that they had with it. And unfortunately, we ended up voting that down. But I think my point with that is it can happen quickly. And so we get to this other stuff of multifamily, a new gravel ordinance, that's been up in the air because we decided, well, we're gonna talk about whether we're gonna get rid of all zoning. So the attorneys are, well, do you really wanna spend that much money on having us rebuild this whole thing when this is all still up in the air? Again, I'm not trying to bash on the planning commission, but if we're going to fix this thing, the whole community needs a little bit longer meetings, maybe, whatever it takes to get this thing done. And if it means getting rid of the planner, fine. We got a planner right there. If you need questions answered, she's a certified planner and can knock it all out, and she's the attorney at the same time. She can answer all the questions in one shot. And so I think if we bring things to the planning commission and say, get it done, it can be done. But it absolutely requires the planning commission to bring it to us. We can't, the 5 of us can't do anything really until the planning commission gets through with it. And so I would argue that if zoning is upheld tonight, then we should ask the planning commission to get started on some stuff and get it done quickly. And don't try to thread the needle every time. That's what dragged out the RV ordinance. Every line was like, oh, what about this and what about that? And, oh, we got to do this, and it just took forever. And that is the problem. I agree with you. Government runs slow. It is obscenely slow. But you gotta cross a lot of T's and dot a lot of I's to make it happen. You know, we're all bound by laws and rules, and that's good. If we need to get rid of the planner, they're the only ones that gave us a proposal, so I think we're pretty much stuck with that, but I think that we can work with them to improve the response. And I definitely think that Catherine and her firm has some great knowledge, great experience and expertise that can help us out a lot. And I do think this thing can get trimmed down. I think it got a lot of control over the course of years, because some things kind of got left on autopilot, and there wasn't response. This is amazing. I tell you what, if you got this many letters and people to show up for a planning commission meeting when they were going to vote on something, you'd probably have a little different zoning ordinance right now. Because I was at plenty of them that had one person in the crowd, and it was me. I've been at ones where it was just Mark, right, before he was on the board. And it's all about engagement. And we talked a little bit about ad hoc committees. Well, you kind of have one already, like you said, the 5 people that sit on the planning commission. They're there to do that work and to listen to the will of the people. With that, I think that the good of zoning outweighs the bad. And I trust me, I've said this before, and I'll say it again, I am negatively affected by zoning. I cannot rebuild my garage. You know, so Reba had to build a privacy fence instead of looking at the back of my garage. I couldn't rebuild the porch that was on my house because I'm too close to the road. I am negatively affected by zoning. I absolutely admit that. But the benefits of it, on the whole, exceed the negatives. I am not a fan of solar farms and wind farms. I like the radio tower, the cell phone tower. That is a good thing for this community. And zoning is a tool that we have to defend that. That doesn't mean somebody couldn't do it. Like, they're big companies, they'll probably find a way to get around it. But it is a hurdle for those people to jump over. And when you have large companies with big attorneys, big money, and they see an open piece of land, they say, well, I can just get that one, I don't have to do anything. They're more likely to jump on it because they don't have to do any work. Especially when we talk about things like data centers. That's a real concern in the world, right there. Certainly in our nation, definitely in Michigan, we got tons of water, and it's a great opportunity for bigger companies to come in and do a lot of work. But the problem is creating jobs. You're gonna get a bunch of jobs when you build the thing, but you're gonna have like 2 people working in it, right? That is not a net gain. Maybe it might be from a property tax perspective, but that's not, I've said this before in a meeting too, not all benefits are economic. I truly love living in this community the way it is. I moved back here. I could have lived anywhere on planet Earth that I wanted. I have a remote job. And I moved back to my hometown. I love this place. And I would like to see it stay relatively the same. And not all benefits are economic. All right, so it sounds like everybody's good. Nobody wants to tell me I'm bad.
So just remember,
a yes vote would be to adopt the ordinance to repeal. Okay, so a yes vote is repeal, a no vote is do not repeal, keep zoning.
And I also want to point out that with the attorney generated petition that was brought forth, a yes vote is to put it on the ballot. no matter what we vote tonight, zoning will not be repealed immediately. Zoning, if the vote to repeal tonight is passed, then there's at least 8 days before anything happens. Zoning is not repealed tonight. And since there's a signed petition or another petition, if this one is determined not good enough, there would be someone would only have to file an intent to a referendum, and they would have, I believe, 30 days to get signatures, and then it would go on the ballot. And to me, that's the goal for tonight, is to get it on the ballot.
Yeah, I just want to make sure whoever brought the petitions, you do have to file a notice of intent. So if the ordinance to repeal passes, even though you may have submitted petitions, you must file a notice of intent within 8 days of the publication, all right? So the petitions alone are not enough. I just want to make sure that was clear. Thank you.
I got one more thing. Thanks for talking to reminded me. A lot's been said tonight too about sending it to the will of the people and the democracy that we live in. But I just remind everybody, we live in a representative republic, and while some things do go to a ballot, not all things do, and not all good things go to a ballot. These are not equivalents, so please don't misunderstand me. But 4 years ago, 2022, we had 3 ballots on the Michigan, or 3 things on the Michigan ballot. One was abortion, one was early voting and term limits, and the other one I can't recall what the third one was because it wasn't as big a deal to me personally. Just because a loud majority, or not even a loud majority, a loud group of people want something on the ballot doesn't necessarily make it a good thing. But we have we can look outwardly down the road. My job as an elected person here in this community is to look at issues from all sides and see what the best plan forward is for the community and vote in that regard. You guys can slave me for that one if you want, but that's how I take this job. I listen to people, and I truly think that I should do what is best for everybody in the long range view. And just because something's not going to go on the ballot, maybe, or it does, I don't know, doesn't necessarily mean that everything's a problem and we can fix it. I really do think we can fix it. So with that, unless somebody else would say something after that goodness that I probably just buried myself with, that's fine. We'll have the vote. Julie?
No. No.
Yes.
Yes.
And I will vote no.
We're going to pick 4 ordinances to send to the Planning Commission following this meeting. They have 6 months to bring it back to us. 6 months. If it is not done in 6 months, I don't want to end up back here. Okay? Just want the job done. Tyler's had a lot of really great ideas. I know Patty has a lot of great ideas. Work together, make it work. We're working with Catherine on all this. We're not working with the planner. So as the board, I would like to decide, because I've asked people to come forward. One person came forward to say something they want to change, which was the propane tank. That's it. In all this time, one person. So I have a list, and I know that other people have a list. So I can say 4 things. One for sure is the gravel ordinance. That's not included in the 6-month window. I was told that will take longer. So we can pick 4 things that are relatively easy to show people that we can do this. We can fix this. We can change this. So So that's my motion.
What exactly was the motion?
4 things to the planning commission. We're gonna pick the 4 things. We're gonna pick the 4 things. I can pick them. Does the board wanna pick them?
Tonight, I need to think about it.
You go, girl.
Gravel.
I'd like to see a lot of things, I mean, ADUs specifically comes to mind, get moved from a special use permit to permitted. So I think we should look at that and figure out what can be moved into a just permitted use. If you meet these qualifications, you can build it.
There's no reason that the gravel cannot be done in 6 months. We have a planning commission chair that wrote up a draft ordinance that can be tweaked in 6 months. So, I think I'm done. Okay. So if that takes an amendment, propose an amendment that gravel also is on there with 6 months. And then I would add RV.
Yeah, I good with the RV use too.
We got ADUs, gravel. Oh, did you say ADUs?
No, ADUs are, it's just, that was one of the things moving from special use to permitted.
I have gravel, permitted uses, streamlined
So-
special uses to permitted,
One
RV
thing,
and ADUs.
so in the, cause right now in the gravel ordinance.
Put your
Yeah, can't hear you.
Right now in the gravel ordinance, sand and topsoil removal is mixed in with that. Is there a way that we can pull that out to give people more, for the people who on the smaller scale?
Okay, so under the state law, that's considered a valuable natural resource, is sand and gravel, but we could pull out under a certain cubic yard of removal or something. Or, you know, we always know under the Right to Farm Act, if somebody's doing it for farming purposes, that's different. So there's things we can do. We do have to make sure that it complies with the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act standards for gravel. But the one you have now is quite complicated, and I think it should be streamlined.
Permitted uses, RV, ADUs.
So the motion is for, in 6 months, the planning commission to take a look at our gravel ordinance, the permitted uses, RVs, and the ADUs. And in 6 months, we need something back on our board table.
Support. Any discussion? No? All right.
I want the planning commission to do their job. I don't want this all to be a fight. So we have 6 months. If it's not done in 6 months, at any point, like this just started, we could do this again. At its core, I don't have a problem with zoning. I really don't. If anyone would have asked me, I would have told you that I love rules. I'm the biggest rule follower you're ever gonna meet. Tell me what the rule is and I'm gonna follow it. I'm also a neat freak. Take a look past my house, it's very clean. I drive my husband nuts. We're never gonna make everybody happy, ever. That's our world, that's life. But we can show you guys that we can fix this. We can make it work for more people.
I kind of feel like this is an ambush on the planning commission. The planning commission is okay, this is not why we're here tonight. And I actually things is pretty ambitious because we have to go through the process. There has to be a public hearing for every ordinance. There has to be review by the county planning commission, and then it has to go back to us. So I think maybe 2 of those would be great in 6 months' time, but once you have all, you have to schedule, you have to work with 30 days for this, 30 days for that. That's an awful, does that seem ambitious?
So here's the thing, if it's simple, we can move it fast. If we have to spend a lot of time analyzing everything, it's gonna take longer. So it will be helpful that maybe if I'm supposed to help you, that I know what you wanna do, and let's just, I can give you draft ordinances, and then we can just discuss it and cut it, get to the point and draft it and present it. Planning Commission holds their public hearing and they make a recommendation and they move it, okay? Don't churn it for months and months and months. Now the gravel's a little bit different, that will be a little bit tougher than the other ones. So the comments about the legislation that have been introduced about housing are real. There's a huge push in the legislature right now to make housing more affordable, and what it is doing is all the things that were mentioned. Smaller minimum lot sizes, allowing duplex in every parcel, looking at setbacks, and the setbacks are generally if you're in a metropolitan statistical area or you have public water or sewer. So those things are in the world for us to talk about right now because that is something that is happening throughout the state. So, you know, it may be a tall order, but I think we can at least try, and if some of these are faster than others, we can knock those out, and then, you know, the one that's probably gonna drag a little is the gravel, but if you have something that was already done by your planning commission chair, then I will start from there.
Having been on the planning commission for many years, all of these things can be done simultaneously. Yes, it may mean that some of the meetings will be a little bit longer, but it isn't like you have to do one and then the other and then the other. It can all be done together.
All right, let's roll call it. Richard?
Yes.
Mark? Yes.
Julie?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, too. All right, that motion carries. Anything else that you guys?
So we've taken the vote tonight. Can this be revisited? What does the scenario look like if the vote comes back?
So the vote to adopt the ordinance failed. I don't know if you follow Robert's Rules of Order or what you exactly apply. So, pardon?
Roughly.
Generally speaking. Okay. You know, generally you don't bring back this question again. It's not brought up again. If you follow Robert's Rules of Order, there's an ability at the next meeting, and I forget the exact term, if it's rescind or I'd have to look it up. That would be a possibility. But in general, it's probably not wise to, unless it would have to be somebody who voted against the motion would have to move to bring it back up, essentially. So one of the three of you would have to decide at the next meeting to bring it back up for a vote again. If that's something you want to do and follow Robert's Rules of Order, let me know, I'll look it up and I'll tell you how to do that, okay?
Thank you. I just wanted to ensure this wasn't something we were going to be revisiting every month. Okay.
All right, if there's nothing else, we'll open it up for more public comment. 3 minutes.
Hello, Don King. I live in Banks Township, and I want to look around at all my neighbors. And I'm so excited to see so much enthusiasm about the whole governmental process that took place here tonight. I'm totally pleased with the result. I'm totally pleased with the motivation of the board to fix this and work forward. Marv, thank you so much for your comment that we can make a lot of progress and make it happen sooner, because what I have learned in this is how slow things go, and we can do better. And I also invite all my neighbors to continue participating in the planning commission so that these things can happen. Y'all got pretty faces. I can't wait to see you again. Thank you all.
Still Thugsy, still from Banks Township. Thank you for your deliberation tonight, and just a quick comment in support of Patty. Much of the ordinance issues way predated Patty.
Absolutely.
So,
Thank you, Doug.
as everyone's clear, she's doing a great job.
I apologize, but data
So,
says otherwise.
kudos. The other question, I guess, that's in my head is I know there's petitions floating. What's the next path? Where does the petition of people that want to repeal zoning, is it going to be on the ballot or no?
No.
It will not be on the ballot.
It had to be in response if they adopted the ordinance. Under the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act, there's a right for a referendum. There is no general authority to bring an advisory question to the ballot in the township.
Okay.
Okay, so the only way it would have got there is, as explained, was if an ordinance was adopted to repeal it, that could have gone to the vote, and then people could have voted.
So our next step is attend planning commission meetings and provide input. Thank you.
Well, thank you for all who stuck up for us Mechanowitzes. Good to see some reform coming into Banks Township. We need that. That's how to work together, and that's good. We respect that. I'm gonna say the reason I'm here now is you and Curtis. I love you guys. I grew up with you guys. We're friends. We're your neighbors. You come up on my brother's property. He doesn't know. He's just repairing his home, correcting his home from environmental damage, mold and mildew. He didn't know. You could have handled it differently. And I hope that this never happens again to any other property owner. You could have said, Pat, get your ass down to the township and fill out a permit. He wasn't doing any damage. He wasn't trying to cut any corners. He didn't know. And I hope that for every property owner in the future that falls into that didn't know the ordinance, give them a break. That nobody's trying to cheat with $25 or for him because of the setbacks and non-compliant zone, $450, but worth not having to go through the hell of being here. So glad to see reforms and hope that we'll all come together. So thank you all.
How's it going? Mitch here again, Banks Township. So yeah, we've been working with a lot of local townships on what you can do to update your ordinance for the data center issue, but there are a lot of things tied into that. I think the probability is very low in Banks Township of getting a data center because we have a list of 318 townships near a 310 kilovolt high energy line, and I'm pretty sure we're not anywhere near any of those high energy lines. So, but it's just better to be safe than sorry too. Just a little story, what's happening in Saline. Township board like this voted against fast tracking an application for Oracle, or it was related digital at that time, owned by Jocelyn Benson's husband. They plan to make about $70 million on this one deal, by the way. But yeah, so what happened, the board voted against it. All the, they heard from higher ups that they basically had to approve it. They got sued, and then they were forced to fast track a massive data center complex. So again, everything you think you know about legal jurisdiction or laws, which I don't know anything about, or planning, it goes out the window with these people. They actually skirt through every single permit. They didn't go through any of that process. Eagle doesn't care. They're hearing from higher ups too. So yeah, just be prepared for future events like data centers. But yeah, this is something that I think that we can, I guess, update our ordinance for any large industrial usage in our township. So thank you. Last thing too, I'm on the executive committee for the Purple Assembly, which is bridging political divides across northern Michigan. We had our first few meetings in Traverse City, one in Leelanau. And if that's something that our township feels like it might need, I feel like that would be kind of a healing moment after everything. Because I've never found, after a conversation with anybody in the world, that I've never learned something from them. And I usually find out that I share a lot more similarities with them than differences after conversation. So if that's something that we want, then please reach out again. So yeah, thank you guys.
My last chance to talk. You guys have heard everything I've had to say for the last year. I think that you've taken all the heart, and I appreciate the vote tonight. And I'm glad that you stood up for all of our residents, even the ones that don't live here currently, maybe want to live here. Again, I'm proud to live here. Thank you again for your vote tonight.
Mitch Trickle from Traverse City again, and I would just like to thank the board for going through an extensive process through all this and having a lot of opportunities for public in this case, moving from where it had been to a much larger venue to allow more people to participate, to see the process, and then listening to all the feedback that was received and allow that to inform the best decision possible for Banks Township. Thank you.
You guys have anything to say? Bills? Richard?
I guess I'd like to let everybody know in the community that's left here and the board especially that obviously I was disappointed because we believe pretty passionately that the best way to resolve it would be for people to vote on it, but I am encouraged that I think all this process that we've gone through that's been pretty painful has brought us to a place where I'm hopeful that we will not achieve everything that I was hoping for, but I think that we can encourage even the thing that we all agreed on to try to move some changes forward as quickly as possible is a positive thing. So I appreciate everybody's work on this.
All right, anybody else have board comment? No? Okay. I just want to reiterate one more time, in case you guys haven't heard this before, I don't like the characterization of how that went down for that deck. I can't prove it, right? But my dad and I were both there and tried to help Pat get his deck put up, and it was already up. Tried to deal with it as best we possibly could. There is something called a non-conforming use. There's another thing that maybe, you know, if we can look at that. There was no wiggle room. I can't just say, well, you know, you didn't know, so I guess let it go. It's not an option. We had to go through the process, and he was successful in his appeal to the Zoning Board of Appeals. And again, I mean, I'll just say I worked through that with him and his brother-in-law Jesse to find a way to work through that with the ZBA. And then kind of the same thing, you know, Richard's been dragged pretty hard too, thinking that he's running this multifamily deal. It's not even his, it's his boys. It's a whole other LLC that owns it. It's not Richard's fault. Things change over time, and we looked through the ordinance and we got it done. And it can be done, and just not real wild about either the ZA, who is my dad, admittedly, or me were portrayed in that. So I just wanted to put our side out there for that. But with that, we are adjourned. You all have a good night. Thank you for coming. Get home safe. God bless.
Thanks for tuning in.